one of my phrases is, you don't build the church for Easter. What I mean by that is you don't size that. Well, Amazon actually has built the church for Easter. We have built the network and our capabilities for the peak, but also for future growth in years out. So when Amazon's latest report will show you, we're doing fabulously well in growing all of the revenues and all of the profits. Well, that's no accident. We've been investing in that infrastructure to be ready for who knows what. This time it happened to be, unfortunately, be a pandemic.
Scott, I wanted to key off of something that you said, which is fascinating, is that when COVID hit and people were demanding COVID-related items, Amazon had to make a decision and say, we're going to focus on shipping COVID-related items and delay a little bit non-essentials. From a supply chain, even middle mile logistics point of view, what is the capacity at which you run the engine, right? Do you run the engine at, what is the goal to run the, I suspect if you run the engine at 100%, then whenever there is a spike, there is no more spare capacity. So within the company, I don't know if you can share, is it 80%? What is that magic number which says, we want to meet our KPIs, we want to leverage, but what is that allows you to handle at least small spikes, if not big spikes? How do you make this system flexible and get all your associates, millions of associates, understand that in terms of a crisis, the usual KPIs are traded in for these set of KPIs?
I would say this, if you think about Amazon's business, while we sell everything under the sun, the peak period of our year is the holiday shopping season.
Yes.
Everything Amazon has always done is sort of preparing for peak. Then we introduced Prime Day, middle of the year, a big sale to move inventory, delight our customers. In reality, it's now May. Amazon's operating at some level. I'm not going to tell you the level, but it's nowhere near the volume that we do at Prime Day or at peak.
Absolutely.
So to your point is exactly right. Plenty of surge capacity, plenty of capabilities are available. And when we get to peak, everything we're doing all year long, getting the inventory in place, opening buildings, making the transportation network, it's all to gear up for when peak hits. And we are just absolutely, hopefully, slammed with orders from our customers, and we're delighting them back and forth. So when COVID hit, because we have this spare capacity, because we're always reinvesting into additional buildings, additional capacity and capability, we had the capacity available to be agile and move around. And when we get to the peak season, I don't even know how full we are. All I know is we want to be ready such that, as I mentioned in 2018, if we're getting 35,000 orders a second worldwide, we're delivering on them. And each year, as the consumers become more and more enticed by what Amazon has to offer, and other retailers too. I mean, it's no accident that my family does Walmart grocery delivery like 3 days a week. We love the fact that they bring it to our house. Now, the pandemic has changed the way we shop for groceries because Walmart gave us something we didn't know we needed. I view that way about Amazon and what Amazon Prime is. Paying for shipping? Who does that? Amazon has made me believe that I don't have to pay for shipping, for example. So we have the capacity. When things happen, we adjust to it because we're always building for our high season. One of my phrases is, you don't build the church for Easter. What I mean by that is you don't size that. Well, Amazon actually has built the church for Easter. We have built the network and our capabilities for the peak, but also for future growth in years out. So when Amazon's latest report will show you, we're doing fabulously well in growing all of the revenues and all of the profits. Well, that's no accident. We've been investing in that infrastructure to be ready for who knows what. This time it happened to, unfortunately, be a pandemic. In the future, maybe it's return to normal shopping. Who knows? But yeah, that capacity level from my manufacturing days, when you planned out tools, you want to run them at 80%, 85%. Maybe the bottleneck tools run at 95%. But you're right, Ravi. You don't plan for 100% because if you do, any variability in the system will blow everything up and all the wheels will come off the wagon. So there's always some reserve capacity. we happen to be blessed at Amazon that we have a lot of capacity
Yes.
throughout the year. When it gets to peak, everything is full go. But again, I can't tell you those numbers because I don't know them.
Yes. No, I remember, and I won't name the companies. I remember in past years during the holiday season, companies were not able to meet customer demand. And what happened was, and maybe they were able to meet 100%, but the demand went to 103%. And those 3% customers were really upset that they could not get their gifts to their loved ones by Christmas. And that is all, everything that the company had done got washed away because you had that percentage of customers. It didn't matter that 100% of the customers, right, got satisfied, but there was the 3% over the top who didn't get their gifts, and that created a huge challenge.
Well, you lose customers,
absolutely,
right? You lose customers over that because they'll say next time.
Yes.
right. Yeah,
And
one of the things I used to tell my students exactly to this point. I tell them that not all stockouts are created equal. And what I meant by that is, imagine you're a new father and your wife tells you to go to the store and get these 14 things and this specific kind of diaper. As a gentleman, I went to the store, I looked for that specific kind of diaper first. And when it wasn't there, I left that store. I didn't buy the other 14 things.
Yes.
I left that store
Yes.
to go to the store that had the diapers.
Yes.
And then I bought the 14 things.
Yes.
So for the store that didn't have that one item I really wanted, they actually lost 14 other items in my basket and they had no idea. Hence, all stockouts are not created equal. And to your point, Ravi, that 3%, who knows if they're never going back to that store again. So it can be very costly for sure.
Yes, and and what you lose is the credibility in the marketplace, because even the ones who got their gifts on time next year are a little bit scared, wondering if they're going to be part of that 3%. Right?
Yeah.
It creates a crisis in confidence in the organization, and which leads me to this question. I suspect the COVID related items, then the demand for them would have been so great that they must have been even greater than holiday season demand, right? Because it forced you to trade off between items, right? Because in holiday season, I have not heard that, but in the COVID, you're clear. We heard that there was a trade off, and so was the surge so high, even much greater than holiday season demand?
I think you're exactly right. If you think about holiday demand, let's imagine we only sell 100 products. The demand for the 100 products could have all gone up proportionally, some a little bit more than others. Whereas in COVID time, only 10 of our products really saw a demand spike, but it was 10,000%, let's say. And the other 90, maybe it wasn't so much. But if you have the network, the relationship with your suppliers, the ability to go and find more of the goods to sell when you run out, Amazon, Walmart, the big companies leverage their scale to go after and find when they see the demand coming, we went and bought more than we ever would have bought, knowing that in the future it's going to sell. And even if we had to pay a premium to do it, we're trying to delight our customers. So we're going to get that inventory. We don't want to tell them we're out of stock. I mean, as a customer, when I'm on Amazon and I see something I want and I click on my size of the shoe and it says it'll be ready in 3 to 4 weeks, I'm very bothered. I'm like, how is that possible? And it's a first world problem that I have to wait on something. I totally respect that. But we have grown accustomed to, I want it now, instant gratification, let me order it, no shipping cost, I want it tomorrow. And when customers get used to that, to your point, you don't want to break their trust and not deliver on your promises. So we take the extra steps to buy the inventory, to go the extra mile, to get the parts, the products we need, such that when that demand does spike during a pandemic or something else, we have the inventory we need. We increase our replenishment cycle, we increase our replenishment quantities, anything we can do to keep that customer happy.
I love what you said about your reputation and the return customer is so important. It's worth that extra money. It's worth that inventory. It's worth that investment, because sometimes you get wound up in, you got to do an ROI calculation. You got to know what this investment's going to result in. But other times it's not as clean and clear as that. So that makes absolute sense.
It looks like as you build the systems of the future, you have to be, in terms of capacity planning, you say, yes, I need to have spare capacity across all the products. but I really need to be, and I'll use a word that Peter has used, agile, is that I want to be really agile because there may be a segment of the products that may see a spike that of not 105%, but you're looking at a 10,000% spike. And how do I change and my supply chain to respond? Because the companies who are agile and respond to that are going to own the marketplace, and those who stumble will have a black mark against them for a long time till the customers forget that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you think about what Amazon does, right? We're going to be agile by doing what? Being in more locations closer to our customers. So as we adding facilities, we're not putting them all in the same city. You know, we're starting to paint the entire world with our buildings being in new locations, such that new customers, when they order it, the odds are, the probability of having the product they want within a day is very high. Yes. And that's how we're figuring out where to put the next buildings, is as we see Vancouver becoming a big area. Let's make that up. I don't know. Yes. We're going to make sure we can get to Vancouver. Now, maybe in the Midwest, you know, if you look at the United States just as a whole, there's a lot of people on the East Coast. There's a lot of people in California, less people in the Midwest. However, facilities in the Midwest can reach either coast very quickly. Whereas if all we did was put our buildings by the people on the East, we would delight the East Coast people, but the people out West would not be happy. So you have to be agile with whether you're manufacturing the product or stocking products. We're also agile with where we're putting our locations and our transportation logistics network within our supply chain, so that we can fast respond and be agile for our customers.
It's so important when you think about that concept. You sense, you strategize, and then you execute. But that wheel has to constantly keep spinning, and it can spin, you know, monthly, weekly, hourly, just like it had to during COVID and those kind of things. So it makes absolutely sense.
Absolutely.
Versus a waterfall set.
Yeah, I remember,
right. Absolutely.
You know, there was an icon called Toys R Us, right? Unfortunately, it has disappeared. I shouldn't say unfortunately for Amazon. It's a good thing that it has disappeared. But, you know, it was an icon. And I remember we would go to Toys R Us and look at the toys. And then we would read about Toys R Us each year, because Toys R Us had a difficult job of predicting 6 months, 9 months in advance of the Christmas season, which toy was going to take off. And I'm making this up, you know, and Elmo the bear would suddenly begin to take off in September or October, because every kid wants Elmo the bear, and nobody had predicted that. And now the supply chain has to come up, because there is an opportunity by next year. Elmo the bear is not going to be the hot item, you know, kids move on. And so I suspect as you look at supply chain, you probably now Amazon has to get ahead and be in this this mode of a true buyer, right? You're not just a supplier or supply chain, but you really have to start predicting using your AI and say, okay, which products are the ones that are most likely to create this phenomenon, and we want to be ready. So how are you factoring that into how closely is middle mile and supply chain working with? I don't know if there is a division in Amazon which looks at products and in which products to emphasize.
Yep, it's called buying. When I worked in inventory placement, I worked with the buying group. So if you think about it, we have the buying group, many people who work with all the suppliers and figure out what products Amazon should buy. Yes. Then we have inbound transportation, as I called it, the first mile, getting that stuff to our buildings. Then we have middle mile, which is distributing all of those things that we bought to all of our buildings to be in the right place for when the customer orders it, such that middle mile and last mile can get it to you. So yes, the buying organization is massive. They use a lot of statistics, machine learning, very, very bright people trying to predict the future, which is quite a challenge. Not to mention how to price things. There's a whole pricing group, because once you bought it, we know what we paid for it. But you know, we can drive the fact that the last, I think it is 4 Prime days, the Instapot has been the #1 selling item every Prime Day. I have one in my house. Why? Because it was like half price on Prime Day, and we decided to try it. how is it possible that 4 years in a row, the same item is the number one item on Prime Day? Doesn't the whole world have an Instapot by now? Well, I don't know, but I'll bet you good money that this Prime Day coming up in a month, Instapots are going to be on a deal and people are going to buy them. And part of that is buying, knowing I got to get a bunch of them in stock,
Yes.
pricing, knowing how they're going to be priced. And then to your point, predicting or modeling how's the demand going to respond, price elasticity curves and all kinds of good stuff that very much smarter people than I am figure all that out.
How cool is that? How cool, how fascinating is that?